we are actually your student during our study at IIUM.
Yes.
Even though I did not enter your class, only joined the seminar because, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't meet you at the time, but just joined the seminar. But the
Okay.
relationship about fertility rate and the economic growth is very interesting at the time.
Okay.
And before we start our discussion, let's pray together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Raditu billahi robba wa bil islami dina wa Muhammadin nabiyya wa rasulah rabbi sidni ilma. Before I give the time to Professor Ahmad Kameel Mydin Meera, I would like to read the CV of Prof. Kameel. Prof. Kameel currently is the director of Z Consulting, and then now he was a professor in the Faculty of Economic and Management Science, as well as the former dean of IIBF, and he holds PhD from North Texas University. And as you know that Prof. Kameel already wrote a lot of books, and today we want to have, discussion session in terms of the book of the Theft of Nation. So actually, I read the book, if I'm not mistaken, is 3 times. I repeat it again, but I read it maybe 1 year ago, Prof, because I used this book
Okay.
as a material, right, to be given to my students because
No.
in UMY, we have international, like Islamic monetary policy course. And the
Okay.
book is good, Prof, because it can provoke a lot of students to
Okay.
learn about gold
Alhamdulillah.
dinar.
Alhamdulillah.
Uh, and inshallah, Professor Kameel will give the lecturer, which is about 14 minutes, and we will continue with Q&A session.
Okay.
The time is yours, Prof.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Faza. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadan Nabil Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. First of all, before I begin, I'd like to thank Faza and also Dr. Dimas, who must be instrumental in organizing this. And to everyone, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. And I'm honored actually to speak on this topic. It has been a dear topic area for me for 20 years. I was working on in my interest is actually in all areas that can actually help in the development of Islamic economy. This is one important area. There are two other areas also equally important. One is education, integrated education. Integrated education is where an education that integrates Islamic, education, character building, and so on, with science and skills. That's also important if you want to develop an Islamic economy. Then the other area which currently I'm working more in detail is a Wakaf economy, development of a Wakaf-based economy. Yeah? So these are all important areas. But today we will be talking about this book, which I wrote 17 years ago. It's already about 17 years ago. 2004 it was written. Yeah. So I will quickly go over it. Dr. Dimas and Brother Faza might find something they've already known because you have already read this book 3 times, right? But for the interest of the students and others, hopefully something beneficial for them also. Okay. So can I share this my screen?
Yes, Prof, please.
Yeah, let me share this. Okay, this is it's actually an old screen, yeah. As you can see, I will take about 30 to 40 minutes, quickly go through this. It's a book review topic, yeah. Now, this is the book, yeah. It is called The Theft of Nations, Returning to Gold, which was written in 2004. Actually, there is a translation of it in Bahasa Indonesia. Yeah, this was done a few years after the book was written. It's called Perampok Bangsa-Bangsa. Yeah, so it is actually a translation of it. I'm not sure whether the book is still available, um, but it was existing at the time. Yeah. Now you see, why I wrote the book, the background was actually the 1997-98 East Asian economic crisis, which happened in Malaysia. It also happened in Indonesia. Remember, the Indonesian rupiah was attacked by currency speculators. So it was actually a reaction to that when we looked into the reasons and how they were able to attack the economy of a few countries, and how they made so much of money out of it. So finally, we could see the importance of what do you call that, gold backing, like it was during the Bretton Woods or before, or gold standard. Why such a system is necessary to prevent these kind of things. So it started from there, yeah. And then you can see what is happening throughout the world. You will see the high technological advancements today. Yeah? Very fast, we are creating new things, and the production processes are now very efficient with less time. Just imagine the production of cars. They just simply come out with robots working, right? And but at the same time, you also see greater economic competition between businesses. People are now tending to work long hours, some of them are even taking two jobs and so on. So we have less time for leisure, family and friends, and many nations have become heavily indebted. Hutang negara sudah bertambah, ya, have become very big, many countries. So many countries are unable to pay even the interest portion of their national debt. So therefore, many nations are on the verge of, bankruptcy, and they lose sovereignty and so on. If you notice, many, and and there's also disparity in income distribution. That means the rich people are becoming richer, the poor becoming poorer, and so on. Last year 2020, um, Oxfam, the one that studies the income distribution, they said last year the wealth of billionaires increased by 38% after the pandemic. Can you imagine 38% increase? So this is how I say. So why the paradox? We always ask, why is that our ability to produce it has increased, right? Our ability to produce has increased tremendously, yet we continue to compete for production and growth and so on. Right? And many people are becoming indebted and so forth. This is the paradox that, bugging us. And one answers to these things. And we also ask questions like, why even a country like the United States that won more than 20 Nobel Prizes, the last 30 years or so, why they still face serious economic problems? Why what is wrong? How we have best minds, eh? So we also ask questions like that. Even now, America is in serious economic, it is being taken over by basically China. China is rising. Now Indonesia also coming up. Countries like Indonesia, Bangladesh also now rising. But intellectual, this thing, we all learn a lot from Nobel, schools, top minds from United States and the West. But all these countries, even the Europe, is in serious economic problem currently. On the other hand, many developing nations are also so vulnerable to the dictates of the developed nations, right? Many, especially that have borrowed from IMF, World Bank, many also facing problems being dictated, this and that, yeah? So these are the questions actually we are trying to answer. Why are developing nations gradually losing the sovereignty, the kadaulatan of their nation? And why are leaders of developing nations sometimes do not seem to represent their people, Because people want something, but the leaders are forced to follow certain conditions imposed on them by other foreign leaders, yeah, of foreign organizations and so forth. So what we are saying is that in this talk, the book, The Theft of Nations, it argues that the reasons for the above, a lot of things that we observe, are significantly embedded in the current structure of the national and international monetary and financial system. You know, it is embedded. The structure is actually causing these things to happen. This is the reason also I can later show you some example how like Malaysia and Indonesia were hit by currency speculators because we have this due to the current structure of the monetary system. So the book is arguing that theft of nations, which is the title of the book, theft of nations. That means ada yang uh, stealing, yeah, the wealth of the nation is taking place globally through the means of an unjust. The system, I'm arguing the system is unjust, is unstable also. That's why we have all up and downs and all, you know, and it's unsustainable because nowadays you're talking about sustainable development goals. So the monetary structure we have is actually it creates unsustainable economic systems. Yeah. So it is unjust, unstable, and unsustainable international monetary and financial system. Okay. Okay. Let me pass this. Now, why? So now, Brother Dimas, if you look, Brother Fazal, when they look at this slide, they might smile because this slide is I've been showing this for the last 20 years. You know why? Because of the three structures that we need to address importantly in order to protect our nation from all those that I mentioned. One is money is fiat, means money is not backed by anything that is real. All right, it's not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver, it is not backed by palm oil, or it's not backed by um, petroleum. So fiat money is simply either is a paper, or maybe it's a coin, or just an electronic record that has value. And many of this fiat money is created through what we call fractional reserve banking. So it is the commercial banks, bank perdagangan, that creates most of the money in the nation. This one, many people they don't know this. Like in Malaysia, 90%, in fact, 95% of money is actually created by commercial banks when they give loans. Even many bankers they don't know this fact. It's actually the banking system creates the money when they give loans. Then the third is we have interest charges on the loans created. So the bank creates money out of nothing, it becomes loan, and then they charge compound interest on it. So these are the three quote unquote damaging characteristics of the present monetary system. Yeah. Later I'll show you some of the numbers in Malaysia. So because of that, most of the money is actually debt ataupun hutang. As I mentioned to you, 95% of money is created in the form of hutang, yeah, through multiple deposit creation, or sometimes we call the fractional reserve banking. That means the system creates a deposit again and again. This is a well-known system. If you look into your textbook, monetary textbook, you will see this process is explained to you. So this is a very well-known mechanism of money creation. Okay, it's in your textbook. So, but the issue is money enters into the economy, which is a risky world. Business world is a risky world. It enters into the economy in the form of hutang mostly, but it demands its return. The banking system wants its return as a riskless cash flow with interest. What do you mean by as a riskless cash flow? That means if you default on a payment, then additional interest will be charged, or maybe penalty for the delay will be charged on you, even though maybe you went through a calamity, let's say a flood, or even an earthquake, a tsunami. You know, so the banking system will not want to take risk of those. You are still liable, and you must pay back the hutang ataupun the loan with interest. So you bear all the risk. The banking system or that created the money do not want to, or does not want to take the risk. This is what it means. So you see, the money enters into the risky world, demanding a riskless cash flow. There's a mismatch over there. Yeah? Next is you notice the interest that's being charged on the NA, it necessitates a continuous growth in money supply. It necessitates a continuous growth in money supply in order for a society to maintain its cost of living. So, in order to keep your cost of living constant, you must continuously grow. That means you must continuously produce more and more and more goods and services in order to maintain the standard of living. I'm saying standard of living as though it is measured by the cost of living. Yeah. So this is the why, because you can see it's explained through the equation of exchange. This is a very good equation for you to understand the relationship between the monetary sector, which is M times V, and the real sector, which is the price levels and the output. For output, we normally use the real GDP. So real GDP is the real output of goods and services, and multiply by the price level, general price level. Together, they give you the nominal GDP. So this is the real economy, output side. This is the monetary side. The monetary side is there's so much of money, the monetary aggregates in the economy. We have M0, which is the notes and coins of the country, the currency, notes and coins, M0. Then you plus the money created by the commercial banks, which we call demand deposits. So that together, they give you the M1. Then when you go higher definitions, you have M2, M3, and so forth. So the monetary aggregates are used when you buy goods and services. So that monetary aggregates multiplied by the velocity of money, how many times they change hands within 1 year, equals to the output. The velocity is generally taken to be a constant. In normal times, it will be constant velocity. So when velocity is constant, the money supply continuously in the economy grows because of the interest. Interest is time-based. So when money is created, first money is created out of nothing, and then when they charge interest on it, so this continuously grows. So if this continuously grows, the Y must also continuously grow if you want to keep P constant. See, the price level is the cost of living. Yeah, I'm kind of equating the cost of living to the price level. That means you must keep price constant. So if this one goes up, if V is constant, and if you want P also to be constant, if this goes up, this one must goes up. So this is why I'm saying that we must constantly create output if you want the price levels to be constant. You see, otherwise, when the M continues to grow, the P also will grow. But for most economies, it is very difficult to keep the Y continuously growing. I will show you in a moment. See, for example, I'll show you some statistics in a moment. Now, the further effects of interest rate is that I already mentioned it requires the endless economic growth in order to maintain the cost of living. There's another characteristic which is very damaging. The debt, hutang, is not repayable in aggregate. That means the economy will not be able to pay back the total loan created in the economy. Why is that? The reason is, let's say 1 billion is given out as interest. 1 billion. It's given out as a loan with interest, yeah, by the banking sector. So 1 billion is created and given out as loan, and then you charge, let's say, 10%. So the economy must return back the 1 billion plus another 10%. But the 10% does not exist in the form of money. You only have the 1 billion created existing, but the 10% does not exist in the form of money. So the economy will, by structure, it will default. So how the economy can pay back the loan plus the interest? It can only pay back by paying the interest portion in real things. If you're producing chairs, then you must give some chairs. If you're having some buildings, you have to pay back in terms of buildings and so on. So the interest portion can only be repaid in real terms. because of this. Yeah, this has many implications actually. This the second the condition. Now, because money is not enough to pay back the total loan, it encourages competition. So that's why you see businesses are always competing for money. You don't hear about business cooperation, right? Rarely. You always hear about business competition. Simply because there's not enough money to pay back the 95% money that is created in the economy in the form of loans. Yeah. And the last one is that the interest, it concentrates wealth in the hands of a minority people by taxing the majority. It means a small group in the economy will keep on becoming very rich, very rich. They'll grow very rich, very rich, very rich like that because simply by the structure of the system, because money is created out of nothing and then you charge compound interest on it. So whoever has the right, whoever who has got the right, that will cause the wealth to grow in their hands. So therefore, the system will create endless inflation by structure, continuously rising the cost of living. This is by structure of the system. So in this modern system, if any country says we want to have a zero inflation policy, it is practically impossible. Practically impossible because of the structure of the system. Now look at this Malaysia's data. This is the money supply M1. M1 is the M0, which is the ringgit notes and coins, plus the demand deposits. That means the demand deposits in the commercial banks. So that's M1. So 1986, this is the M1, 13 billion, almost 14 billion M1. And this is the GDP at current price, the GDP, nominal GDP, 71 billion. You see, this is 71 billion, this is 13 billion. That means the 13 billion must change hands few times to create the 71 billion. You understand? So the how many times it changes hands is the velocity of money circulation. Right? Now you notice in year 2020, it is half trillion already. 500 million from 13 to 513 billion. Yeah, the total M1. So the annual growth rate of money is about 11.18%. 11.18%. The money supply has been growing. At that time, 2020, look at the GDP. The GDP was 350. But of course, the GDP in 2020 is not a good statistics because we all had the pandemic, right? But you notice, you see, the from 2019, it has reduced a bit because of the pandemic. Otherwise, it have gone up, yeah? So, but overall, you notice the economic growth only about 4.8% annually from 1986 to here. But the money supply grew at 11%, 11.9. So the difference will be definitely inflationary. It will show up in price of property, especially houses, buildings and so on, constantly going higher. And some of this excess money will also go into financial markets like stock market. The stock market also will be rallying because of the excess money that goes into this market. But I want you to look at one interesting fact. You see, here the money supply is lower than the GDP. That means there is some velocity of money circulation. Look in 2020, the money supply is even larger than the economy already. This is nominal the GDP we're talking about. So if you look at the real GDP, which will be even smaller than this. So you see, the money supply has exceeded even the size of the real economy. To me, that is not good. That means you have so much of fiat money created. It's in the hands of some people. And it can be used for many purposes, good and even bad purposes. Yeah. So this is what has happened to along the way, for example, in Malaysia. So this is the same thing, money supply. This is M3. You see, this is M3, larger monetary aggregate. Yeah. You see, in 2020, it is 2 trillion already. When the real GDP, the real GDP is only 350. You see, it's already the M3 is 4 times the real GDP of Malaysia. Yeah. Okay. So and also that is also causing. Look at the government debt. Huh? This is our government debt. So it has been also rising. The domestic debt. This is the external debt. So recently, Malaysia had to increase its external debt from 2019 from 52% to 58%. We had a law that our external debt, that means borrowing from outside the country, cannot exceed 55% of our GDP. But because of the pandemic, we had to borrow money. So a law had to be, an act need to be introduced, the Temporary Measures for Government Financing Act, yeah, for 2019, in order to increase the government debt, external debt to 58.5%. Otherwise, we cannot go to this level. So government debt also rising, as you can see. Yeah? Now, this is the dynamics of the monetary system. Almost any part of the world, Malaysia, Indonesia, you can go and check for almost any part of the world. What is that? This is the green is the growth of the real economy, the real GDP that I was talking about. Over the years, if you plot the graph, it will be growing something like this. But the money in the economy, which is mostly hutang, yeah. So money in the economy will be growing exponentially like this, growing faster and faster, creating a gap, a widening gap between the monetary sector and the real sector. So because the monetary sector rises much faster, you get inflation. You get bubbles, price of properties, particularly houses, buildings, shop lots, all land, all will be rising constantly at a much faster rate. And it will also cause a widening gap in the income and wealth distribution. That means the rich becoming richer, the poor becoming poorer. So all these three, excuse me, so all these three is by the structure of the monetary system itself. So this is what the theft of nations is showing. What we observe in economy is constant inflation, constant property bubbles, constant widening of gap in income and wealth distribution. These are by structure of the modern monetary system. You see, in Malaysia, for example, you notice this is the price of houses. And the data is 5 years ago. We're not talking about the latest one. This is 5 years ago data by the Hazana Research Institute. You see, this is the average median monthly income of a family. And this is the median price of home a family can afford. Median means 50% of Malaysian family. This is the price of a house they can afford, 188,000 ringgit. But the median price of houses in the market is 313. So when you take the 313 and then you divide it by the annual income, yeah, median income is 5 times. For affordability, it must be only 3 times. That's the universal definition. The price of the house divided by the median income should not be more than 3 times. But then in Malaysia, it's already 5 times. 5 times is considered severely unaffordable. So imagine in Malaysia, 5 years ago, houses are already severely unaffordable, right? So we are actually, our youngsters, whenever I see my students graduate from the university, I feel sad for them because I know it becomes increasingly difficult for them to buy a house. Why? It is because of the structure of the monetary system, you know. Okay, this one I've already mentioned to you. Total debt is not payable in equity. So you see what will happen, consequences of a structure is that when the loans increase, continuously grow, when we have the loans continuously grow, a point will come, people will not be able to pay the debt. When someone is unable to pay the debt, then he will default, then the banking sector will go after the collateral, the cagaran. Mungkin dia letak rumahnya sebagai cagaran ataupun tanahnya sebagai cagaran. So the banking sector will take the real asset since you're not able to pay the debt. So when it cancels the debt, the amount of money in the economy also now starts to shrink. So the economy starts to shrink. So once the money starts to shrink, then other people will also be unable to pay the loan because less money. So the businesses will find, hey, there's no business, there's lack of business and so on. So you will create the domino effect of more and more people will be start defaulting. That is the economic downturn. So it will create a economic downturn of recession when people start to default on loans, and the banking sector will start to confiscate real assets. But the Fazza, please inform me how much time I have. Yeah,
Yeah, Prof.
yeah, all right. So this is the natural cycle. So when people default, the economy will go down, and the governments will come and pump in more money. That's what we call quantitative easing and so forth. Basically, it's just pumping money that is being destroyed to counter the dynamics. Okay, so therefore, that default is also by the design of the system. You see that? You see, people default is actually by the design of the system. Now, when we look into all that is happening, the creation of money out of nothing, then charging of interest, these are all actually riba. If you go and see the definition of what is riba, you will see, yeah, where there's no counter value being created. That means if it is riba, that means you are not giving something, but you're taking something from the economy. So when you create money out of nothing, you're not giving something real. You're just creating value out of nothing, but you're able to take real things from the economy. So creation of money itself is actually riba. Then you charge interest on it is additional riba. And we know the last verse revealed in the Quran about riba, and riba is very much abhorred in Islam. Is what is number one negative thing when you talk about Islamic banking and finance, other than the maisir and gambling and so forth. The number one we want to avoid is riba. But our monetary system today, fiat money, fractional reserve that is creating money out of nothing as a loan, and then charging interest. All the three of these, in our opinion, is all riba. We have to address all the three if you want to create a true Islamic system. So therefore, the system actually transfers wealth and sovereignty. Wealth of whom? Wealth of individuals, because individuals are becoming indebted. Wealth of businesses. Businesses also must borrow money. And also the wealth of the government. So individuals, business, and governments will become indebted, including government. Yeah, indebted means dia jadi orang yang berhutang. All the three, ordinary individual people, businesses, and government, semuanya akan jadi yang si berhutang. You know, so in accounting we know, so untuk setiap si berhutang mesti ada orang yang beri hutangnya, ya. So who is the creditor in the system? For every debtor there must be a creditor. So if individuals, business, and governments are all debtors, so who is the creditor? Yeah. So the creditors in the system are no other than the banking system that we as a people have given them the right to create money out of nothing and give to us as loan. So we gave them the legal right to create money out of nothing. So they become the creditors in the system. So ultimately, the system therefore transfers wealth and sovereignty to that group who creates the money out of nothing. So that's why the book is titled "The Theft of Nations." Okay. So who are the creditors? The creditors are simply is the one who controls the financial institutions. Okay. But the financial institutions, the local financial institutions, ultimately actually are answerable to the international financial institutions. So ultimately, the most powerful in any to whom the wealth of nations are accumulating are actually international financial institutions. Okay. So ultimately, what this thing is creating is that creating a small group of people become extremely wealthy because of this. So Allah SWT says so that in Islamic system, we must create a system so that wealth does not merely make a circuit. That means it's only a circle between the wealthy among you. So we must avoid that. But the present monetary system actually creates this. A wealthy become wealthier, wealthier, wealthier simply by the structure of the system. So I actually, the magic word is when you create value out of nothing, it's called Sinoraj. Now I actually wrote a cartoon book. It's called The Story of Sukus and Tukus, actually meant for children, to let them understand what I was saying, all this what I say, so that they can understand this in a story form. Sukus and Tukus adalah, people in an island, a group of people in an island who are using gold and as money, and suddenly paper money was introduced. So what is the effect of the paper money in a story form? Maybe you like to, you can go to Amazon.co, you can get it Kindle very cheap. I put it in Kindle so that people can buy it very cheap. Yeah. So you may want to look into this. So let me. This is actually just to show you the effects of money creation. For example, how the theft is done. For example, let's say you're a farmer, you have a land, maybe in one island or whatever, or in the kampung, you have a land. Let's say you tanam jagung ataupun you tanam padi, you make 10,000. Yeah? This is 10,000 ringgit I'm putting. You can put that in rupiahs. Yeah. So 10,000 ringgit, the farmer sell jagung dengan padinya, then deposit into the bank. If the reserve requirement is 4%, as in Malaysia is now about 3 to 4%. I'm not sure Indonesia how many percent. So if you it's 10%, then what can the banking system can do is that it can create 240,000 in the form of loans. And this is a you can look into your monetary textbook how the reserve requirement will create the money creation. Is simply this number 10,000 divided by this, which will give you 250,000. But 10%, 10,000 is already there in the books, so you can create additional 240,000 as new loans. So imagine if the new loan is given to one person, that one person can buy part of your land. Simply from your original deposit, the banking system can create new money, and the new money can buy part of your land. You see? So this is how you can actually slowly, you can lose your own wealth. All right. Now, this is another example. Let's say between two countries. You can imagine the two countries. These are all real examples, but I don't have to mention which countries or whatever. So let's say one country has oil, another country has no oil, but they have a good monetary system. But they make their currency $1 of this country is equal to $1 of this country. Nilainya dijadikan sama, ya. But this country is not allowed to create money like the normal money creation process. All money is created in this country. So if you agree to an arrangement like this, where money is created in this country, you have natural resources in this country, and you cannot create money, but your currency can be used in this country. Maybe you feel proud. Oh, no, this is a very advanced country. I'm not an advanced country, but my currency, I can use it here. You feel proud. But what we forget is that this country can create money out of nothing, electronic or so, and they can buy your oil, or maybe they can buy whatever resources that you have, maybe gold, right? So you lose simply by the rush like that. Okay. So the fiat money, because it's the vulnerable structure like that, the currency has become a tool for speculation, manipulation, and arbitrage. Excuse me. So this is how the currency speculators hit Malaysia and Indonesia, Thailand, South Korea in 1998, 1999. And that's why I wrote the book, The Theft of Nations. How did they hit? For example, this I don't want to go in detail. Later you can look into it. For example, let's say this is US dollar, Malaysian ringgit, and Singapore dollar. This was the original exchange rate. One US dollar was 240 Malaysian ringgit. One Singapore dollar, 150. So these are the exchange rates. The speculators, what they do is they borrow a lot of ringgit, which is created out of nothing by the commercial bank. They borrow a lot of money and then they dump it in the forex market and push the currency down. So from 2.4, they actually pushed it to almost like 4.8. I'm just taking, let's say they were able to push it to 3.2, then they can make two kinds of profit. One is speculative profit, the other one is called arbitrage profit. Speculative profit, you can see they make a profit of just for every 1 million USD, they can make a 250,000 US dollars profit, all out of the speculative profit only. Arbitrage profit is where when you push the currency like from 2.4 to 3.2, you break the equilibrium between other currencies, the equilibrium exchange rate. So you can make money by just uh, playing between the currencies. For example, you borrow 1 million USD, maybe for 10 minutes, 10 minutes only, borrow 1 million USD, change it to ringgit, then change it to Sing dollars, then change it back to USD. The 1 million will become 1.33 million. Can you believe that? Within 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you can do all. So you can make an arbitrage profit of 333,000 US dollars. So the currency speculators, for every 1 million, they made 250,000 speculative profit and 333,000 arbitrage profit. And that's only for exchange rate for up to 3.2 only. Actually, they pushed it until 4.8. You see? And they don't play just in millions, huh? They even play in billions. So, wealth of the nation is lost. This is why I call it a theft of nation. You steal the wealth of countries by just playing with the currencies like that. Now, anyway, I don't have much there are a lot of effects. What is the solution to this? This actually the fiat money system has a lot of implication for the economy, for the society, the environment, politics, the shrinking population that is many nations are facing, aging problems and so on, like Japan, South Korea, Singapore, entire Europe. They're all facing now shrinking population. I have argued all this actually caused by this structure that we discussed earlier. So, what is the solution? The solution to all this, what we have been saying is that we are now at number one. Fiat money is mostly created by commercial banks. Mostly. We are here. We need to go to the next step where fiat money or cryptocurrency issued by the government. That means we take away the power from the commercial banks, give it to the government. So government must now create most of the money, money for the nation, and this will give a fantastic revenue to the government. So we can go to things like public banking. You can. There's a institute called Public Banking Institute in the U.S. You may go to the website and learn what is public. And that is also the concept when we call sovereign money. That means all money is created by government, no more by the commercial banks, because commercial banks are privately owned. But many people will disagree when we say the money to be created by the government. They say the governments have bureaucracy, they will abuse the system, politicians will abuse the system, and so on. But we are arguing, if we need to create money out of nothing, it must be publicly owned. It cannot be privately owned. You are creating money for the country. How can it be privately owned? So we need to put the proper check and balances. Cryptocurrency and cryptography can help a lot in this regard. Okay. Okay. This one we need to go in details. Otherwise, most people will disagree. Oh, no. We should not give the power to government. Then, but you see, if you notice, China, the top four banks in China that gives the financing for its entire economy is actually publicly owned. It's owned by the government. The banks are owned by the government, not private. Yeah? The number three, cryptocurrency issued by government. Okay, 100% digital money by government. That means no more at stage three. There will be no more paper money or coins. 100% digital money still now, but issued by government. Now, this one will be very powerful because if you go to this, then even if I give Satu Ringgit Sedekah, it will be recorded from whom to whom. So therefore, uh, you know, um, uh, you know, uh, bribery, corruption will become very difficult. Misappropriation of funds will become difficult. Even people who try to evade tax will become difficult. So if you go to 100% digital money, and if the money is issued by the government, maybe as a cryptocurrency, the revenue for government will become humongous, huge. So what the government can do, they can give it back to the people by charging low taxation. So the government will not rely on taxation for its revenue because the government has the right to create money already. So taxation will be used merely to control inflation in the system. All right. That system we call modern money theory, MMT here. Huh? Maybe as a
Excuse me,
student,
Prof. 10 minutes left.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So as a student, what you can do, you can go to modern money theory, look into it. And I think there's a better system than the present one. We give the power to governments to create the money with proper check and balances. So the revenue is not no longer from tax, but by creation of money. They will use the taxation to control inflation in the system. Yeah. Then the last system that is what we love to see, like people like me, is this 100% money is now backed by something real asset like gold. It can be backed by even palm oil. Indonesia has palm oil. Malaysia has palm oil. We are the largest producers of palm oil in the world. So we can make a currency backed by palm oil. We also produce petroleum. Indonesia is producing petroleum. Malaysia producing petroleum. So we can also create currency backed by petroleum. And if the government runs a netting system at the same time, that means it also runs the payment system for the entire country. So every payment, the government gets a small revenue. Just charge a tiny revenue transaction fee. You can get a huge revenue, you know. And what is the advantage of gold or asset or backing by palm oil or petroleum? Inflation will disappear in the economy. Inflation will disappear, and also the foreign exchange risk. The foreign exchange rate, the forex risk. You see, if you notice how the rupiah has been depreciating for the last 20 years, for example, how the Malaysian ringgit has depreciated for the last 20 years. We can avoid all this if our currency, we back it by the resources of our nation, like palm oil and petroleum. Our currency can become a powerful currency in the world, you know. So this is why the advantage of ultimately backing it by an asset, a real asset. It can be gold, it can be any other, So we can be a powerful country. So if you look into history, you look back into history, empires that lasted for a very long time. Empires, they lasted for a very long time. For example, even Islamic Caliphate, Khilafah Islamic, or in history in Indonesia. You look at the Sriwijaya Empire, for example, the Roman Empire. You would have noticed all of them, they use gold and silver as money, and then there'll be no interest in the system. So gold and silver as money and no interest is not unique to Islam. Even if you notice, go back to Sri Vijaya and look at the Hindu kingdoms of the past, even the Christian, this thing, all riba was actually forbidden. Charging interest is forbidden. So when you forbid this thing, when you have such a system, you see them ruling for hundreds or even thousands of years. You know, you look at Sri Vijaya was ruling in the Indonesian part for hundreds of years, or even close to 1,000. So why they were able to? Because of the structure of the monetary system. If you have interest-based fiat money system, you will grow only for about 30, 40 years maximum. I say 50 years. After that, you'll start to come down. Once the economy is full of debt, individual debt, business is debt, government also debt, then you will start to come down. So Malaysia started to rise for about 20 years in 1980s and 90s during the time of Tun Mahathir. After that, we have started to come down. Until now, we're actually going down. Indonesia now is starting to rise. So Indonesia, from my understanding of economics, you will rise for another 30 to 40 years in this present system. Because our system is still fiat money and interest based. After that, you will start to come down once most of the people, businesses, and government have already become indebted. That is the reason why America is a sole superpower since 1990s, after Russia was no longer a superpower. As a sole superpower, America was able to last only for about 20 years. Notice that? Now it is going down. Why? Because of the monetary system. Interest-based fiat monetary system is unsustainable. Okay, so if Indonesia, while rising the next 30 to 40 years, if you want to be at the top of the world for next hundreds of years, then you need to address this. It is fiat money and interest based. I think I will stop here. Even though actually there are many, the slide goes on to tell what we can do domestic and foreign international, how to do the payment system and so on. But those are details. Yeah. So maybe we can have talk another time. So I will stop here and we can have question and answers. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
your explanation, Prof. It is very clear.
Mm.
Okay, so I would like to give the opportunity for all of you, especially for the students that you want to ask directly first. Could you please to raise the hand? Okay, I have a question from Natania, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Okay.
for your time. I will
Okay.
ask. Mm.
Please.
But sorry to get all the topic. What I want to ask is one of the risks associated with money is usury or riba. If in conventional banking, we can claim that there are usury or riba transaction there. What about in Islamic banking or I think Islamic perbankan syariah?
Mm.
Are there still usury transactions there?
Oh.
I asked because I was still confused in Islamic banking still usury or not. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Very
Thank you, Natania.
very straightforward question. The issue is I don't want to it's like this. This question is a very tough question to answer. Okay. Okay, I'll tell you why this thing. You see, in 1980s, like in Malaysia, the first time Islamic banking was introduced. We were in a fiat monetary system, and then we introduced the Islamic banking. So it was supposed to come as an alternative of interest-free banking. So remember the three characteristics that I was mentioning: fiat money, fractional reserve, and interest. So we were addressing only the interest portion. We wanted to say riba-free or interest-free banking. Tapi the banking system still operate under fiat money, and also they operate under the fractional reserve banking. What does that mean? It means Bank Sharia in Malaysia also create money out of nothing, and then they will use Islamic contracts when they want to give that money. That means create money out of nothing, tapi bukan sebagai pinjaman, pakai riba. Dia mungkin dia beli satu rumah dan jual on a profit on a murabahah concept, for example, you know. So the problem is they still create money out of nothing first before the actual Islamic contract comes about. After that, you see. So this is the issue. So in my understanding, that portion where the Islamic bank creates money out of nothing, it is still violates the Islamic concept. But then, however, we had no choice at that time. Our Sharia scholars, they brought out of nothing, they made Islamic banking, they made Sharia relevant by introducing the Islamic banking. So they have done their part until today. Islamic banking has grown very well until now. So what I'm saying is now we have to take the Islamic banking and finance to the next level by by addressing the first two. We cannot use fiat money. That means money in Islam must be also real. Supaya setiap transaksi adalah adil, that is the reason. So we need to make money back to real money. So that is the reason I'm saying that if you look at the Sharia principles of muamalat, the zakat laws, the hudud laws, the mahar, semuanya berasaskan emas dan perak sebagai monetary standard. You see? So there's hikmah behind. So we need to bring that. So the moment you bring money as a real money, then fractional reserve cannot take place. What does that mean? It means if I'm a bank, I mobilize 1 billion saving, I can only lend out 1 billion. If I manage to only mobilize 1 million savings of people, I can only use the 1 million for the financing. I cannot create more than that, which is fair. So this is what we need to do additionally in the Islamic. We need to correct that structure, in my opinion. If you don't correct that structure, then Islamic banking will also create problem in the economy, right? Just like the conventional banks. So this is what I've been saying when I was even the dean of the Institute for Islamic Banking. I have been saying that it's time for us to move forward to the real money concept. But then there's one problem I must admit. We can justify the gold and silver as money. We can justify from history. We know gold standard existed. We know bimetallism existed. We know Bretton Woods existed until 1971. They were all gold backed. Okay, so we have historical justification. We have religious justification also for us from Sharia perspective. We also have Ottoman Caliphate, this thing, or the historical perspective also. I can also justify gold and silver from scientific perspective. Why gold and silver? Why not kopi or some other? But we cannot justify it politically now. So we cannot introduce gold and silver easily nowadays. Politically, we'll lose out. Okay, why? Because we do not have global political strength to do it currently. Even Indonesia will find. Let's say the Indonesian government says, yes, now it's time for us to introduce gold and silver as money. It will be difficult. Foreign forces will try to stop you from doing it. Okay, so we'll need to wait for a while, because as we are saying, the current system is unsustainable. Anything that's unsustainable will ultimately they can crumble and collapse on its own, like what is happening to the U.S. economy, right? So soon U.S. itself will tell, yes, we have to go back to real money concept. China has already introduced, yuan, petro yuan backed by gold. You can Google and see petro yuan backed by gold, right? So this kind of thing. In Turkey, there's a bank already introduced cryptocurrency backed by gold. You see? So once we do this kind of thing, if let's say Malaysia also do the same, Indonesia also have bank issuing cryptocurrency backed by gold, then later we can use this for payment system. When the Islamic banks start to use that as a payment system, then we are solving that part, the fiat money and the fractional reserve problem. So Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, we are already on the verge onto that path. Okay. So you as a student, probably is your time to bring to that level. Inshallah, it's I'm very confident it's you people who will be able to do it, because the present system globally is unsustainable. And for Indonesia also, I'm telling you, for Indonesia also, you can be, for hundreds of years, you can be at the top global, you can give a global economics and political leadership for the Muslim world if you correct your monetary system. Cryptocurrency backed by gold, and there should be no interest charges. That means Islamic banking and finance based on cryptocurrencies that is backed by gold also can, even backed by oil also can, palm oil also can. You can become powerful for hundreds of years. But if you don't correct that, I can confidently I can say Indonesia can go out for the next 30 to 40 years. After that, it will come down again.
Okay. Thank you, Prof, for the answer. Actually, we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
A lot of students. I don't know why they chat me, but private. But I will let one student. Maybe they are shy, right?
All right.
Maybe he wants to ask you directly, right?
Okay.
Okay, Yusil, do you want to ask it? Because Yusil already discussed this book about me. If I'm not mistaken, it's last year, right?
Yeah.
Yusil, you can ask directly.
Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Kameel. So, actually, I already read your book.
Alhamdulillah.
And this is such a great book that I have. So, if I'm not mistaken, in your book, you wrote that one of the causes of the crisis that that occur or happen during the implementations of fiat money is because the loss of wealth and continue to be adore the value of inflation.
Yeah, correct.
So whereas if we want replace gold as currencies,
Yeah,
we must know that gold reserve are limited
correct.
in the country.
Yes.
So do you think that is still possible to implement, or like you have better solutions of
Oh,
it?
okay. Okay. So that's your question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is actually is a very a common question. A lot of us we ask, if you go to gold, there's not enough gold. The gold supply is very limited. Number one. Number two, many countries they don't have gold. Many countries. So is this still viable in today's world when the global trade is so huge, but the gold supply is very little? Is it still viable? Now, actually, the gold supply being limited, it is actually a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. It is positive for this structure. Why it is a positive thing? Because gold is limited and it is rare to get. You cannot simply find here and there. That is the reason why it plays the role of money very well. Because it is rare, it is limited, so people value it high. So when I have a small 4 grams, 5 grams, nilainya tinggi, right? So I can, so the role, Imam Al-Ghazali mentioned it very nicely in Ihya Ulumuddin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created gold and silver as a measure of value. They say how brilliant the Imam is. The Imam didn't say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created gold and silver as money. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created gold and silver as a measure of value. So there's a very big difference in that. So when the gold supply is very limited, and then small quantity has large value. For example, let's say I import palm oil from Indonesia. The value is, we are saying, nilainya sama dengan 10 kilograms of gold. Okay, nilainya, palm oil. Now I'm going to export to you, let's say from Malaysia, maybe something that we produce. Let's say whatever cotton, we don't have cotton. Let's say, what do you have? Right? Let's say something we have, we will export to Indonesia. Also, value at 10 kilograms of gold. So we export to you, let's say cotton or whatever, even though we don't have cotton. Let's say, for just an example, let's say the country exports cotton equivalent to 10 kilograms of gold. And then we take your oil, 10 kilograms of gold. So do we need gold for settlement? We don't need. We only use gold as a measure of value. So most of the transactions in the economy, we can actually net them off. We don't need gold for a living, we can live without gold actually, right? But we need rice, we need oil, we need sugar, for us to live. Tapi kita nilainya diukur dengan emas, and we just exchange among ourselves. So ultimately, that's why if you notice when I put the path just now 1, 2, 3, 4. When I say currency payment system implemented by government, I use the word netting system. We use a netting system. The moment you use a netting system, then you will need very, very little gold to settle huge transactions or even international trade. Because we use gold only as a measure of value. So your country may have gold. I may have clean water. So you take out the gold, I take out my clean water, kita exchange. So it doesn't matter whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put gold in my country, or He put water in my country, or He put other resources in my country, or maybe a fertile land. Semuanya sama. So it doesn't matter even if you don't have gold. But you must have other resources which we exchange among ourselves. Get it? So let me summarize. Therefore, the shortage of gold is actually a positive thing. It's not a negative thing, right? And a country having no gold is not a problem at all. But if you have no gold, no resources, nothing, then you are poor, So when you see yourself, Indonesia, you are actually very, very wealthy. Kenapa you sebenarnya Indonesia is a very wealthy? You look, you have almost everything. Your land is so fertile. Just Java Island can feed the entire Indonesia. And then look at the natural resources. You have gold, you have petroleum, you have everything. And then you have large human resources, which many countries are now having shortage. So the human resources, it is not a negative thing. Some people are trying to reduce their population. Actually, it is a very wrong thing to reduce your population. What you need to do is educate the population. Because an individual becomes an asset to a country when that individual is educated. Once it's educated, they will know, they will do all kinds of interesting, innovative things, and they will come up with new things. And then they will exchange. You see, many countries, let me tell you, Singapore, the former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, is actually, he said the negative shrinking population is actually a big problem for the nation. Number one problem, which he said he couldn't solve it. Japan is facing a huge problem now. That's why now they've started to take Indonesian youth to work there now. South Korea is even worse problem. They don't know how to solve it already. Entire Europe, they cannot reverse it. So, population is an asset. Don't ever try to reduce it. But tell the government, we must use even the resources of the nation, maybe even to the extent of 20% of the natural resources of the nation, use for educating the people, use for R&D, research and development. Then you will never regret that your population is rising. You will be happy with the population rising. You will, fantastic.
Okay, Yusril, thank you very much for the question, and thank you, Prof, for the answer. So yeah, actually I have another question from Arik Musyafa. So I will read it for you, Prof.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, it is true that fractional reserve is the same as practicing of banks by multiplying the money? What I see from mu1, mu2 in the amount is getting bigger.
Correct.
And what do you think about this, Prof? And how do we stop this practice, right? Especially if I can specify it in the Islamic bank system.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're right, actually. The creation of money by creating new deposits, is the what you're saying is correct. That's the multiple deposit creation is the new money creation. The multiple deposit is created in the form of loan, right? So you are right. It is actually is problem. That is where the major problem comes. So the sovereign money theory or structure tells we now take that power away from commercial banks and give to only the government. So similar to I was mentioning to you how China is having its largest banks in the country are actually belongs to the government. So those are the banks that create the new money. But as I'm telling you, you need to put the right check and balance so that our politicians they don't abuse the system. Yeah, you need to put the right check and balance. So how you want to stop it? That's number one is take away like that. Then gradually we move towards the linking of the that money to real thing that I mentioned to gold or palm oil or other oil and things like that. But you can another way of doing that is by changing the commercial banks into like asset managers. Gradually they'll have to become like asset managers, not money creators. Today, commercial banks are money creators. So slowly we take away their power, and then the banks, what they should do is they become like fund managers. They actually mobilize actual savings of the people, so people save money with them, and they will invest in businesses, maybe stock market or maybe real businesses, and then they make money out of it, and then they share the dividends. So the banking system, the current banking system, will have to evolve like that. In fact, very soon they'll be forced to evolve like that because the rising of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and things like that, it will force them to, for example, now like the cryptocurrency backed by gold, it's very difficult to stop. Governments will find it difficult to stop That's why even in Dubai, even in Turkey, it's already there already. You know. So once if I have a cryptocurrency backed by gold, then I can later use it for paying and buying things internationally. So that's basically a gold payment system. Is it? So we cannot stop it. So the best thing is governments must embrace it, put the structures correctly, regulate these structures properly, so that you can collect the right revenue from the people, and then you can use that for the benefit of the people and the nation. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Prof. Yeah, we have a different question actually. I think it is quite a challenging question. So when your idea in the book
Mm.
were using like gold as gold packing system.
Yeah.
So when it is practiced, who will get the benefit the most? Which countries? It's still Western country or maybe or IC countries? And secondly, actually, from where we can start it? Is it with using political approach or like society is driven by the society, like in the local community?
Yeah. Okay. Very, very good question. As I was mentioning to you, the goal, justifying goal, the most difficult is to get the political, politically we cannot justify. That means you need political will if you really want to implement the thing. Yeah. So to get the political will, you need a government that is strong, which understands this and it will move in that direction. Actually, I was reading when I was reading the politics of the US, Donald Trump was actually going towards it. He was going towards goal actually, but then he was already defeated already. So he understood the issue and he was going to change back to goal linking. So currently, if you see like Turkey, Dubai, there's already cryptocurrency backed by gold. So those people they can start ready. Where there is already some political will, you can use that for payments already. So in Malaysia, this is what I'm trying to push in it, that for the government to adopt. You're not going to disturb the current banking system. Let them go on how they're going, because they will be slowly they'll be forced to evolve anyway. So we introduced cryptocurrency backed by either gold or palm oil. You know, so we will do that, and then you can implement within a community. So the best thing is, let's say if your government can allow, okay, let's say within a group or within a village or within the movement, let's say Muhammadiyah movement, for example, the government says, okay, you can implement within the movement, then you can implement that thing. But the present thing is that it can create a conflict if the government does not agree with it. Let's say, oh no, we are not ready for that, then it might create a conflict, or you're trying to do your own monetary system and things like that. But whatever it is, ultimately, if the government is clever, if they can foresight, they can see it. It is in the interest of the Indonesia, actually, that if you actually adopt the gold payment system, it's in the internet, because you can be powerful for hundreds of years if you go back to that one. Just go back to history. I'm telling you, you just go back to, let's say, the Sri Vijaya, and you go and look at the characteristic of what the monetary system was existing at that time. Why they were able to be powerful there for hundreds of years. You go and look back, you will see that. So it's in the interest. So otherwise, if the government is stopping you from doing it, then you have to wait. Maybe it might come from Turkey. Then they think, okay, they might accept in a small scale, and so forth. So, but anyway, we are moving towards that. So the best way is, if you ask me, it is to implement a payment system like a chamber of commerce, or within a community, or within a movement like Muhammadiyah. You implement a netting system backed by gold. In fact, that was what I did when I left the UIA in 2015. I actually created a payment system. It's called IGENS. IGENS stands for Interest-Free Goal-Based Electronic Netting System. If you implement within a community of traders, that's how you study as a community currency.
Yeah. But maybe like the case of Pak Zaim Zaidi, right?
Yeah.
He was jailed because of
Yeah.
gold I mean, like pasar muamalah. It is local community.
Yeah,
But
he was prison, is it? Is
yeah,
he prison? No, see,
yeah,
this is
because
what I'm telling. You see, while I don't think that what he, in my opinion, and that's my opinion, I don't know the details of his arrest and things that we don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But if he was arrested because of his gold payment system and things like that, I think the government should relook into it. Yeah, because
mm,
look in Indonesia, in many countries, in Turkey, all people already creating currencies backed by gold already.
mm, yeah,
It's going to become even more modern than that. Not just physical. It's going to be cryptocurrency backed by gold. So I think that we need to look into that, and then put the right regulation so that the government can get the revenue properly. From transactions using gold, the government should get the revenue properly. So that can actually give much more, and
mm,
it can even give you a sustainable system ultimately.
mm. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you very much, Prof, for
Yeah.
the answer. Actually, for the last, I will give maybe special opportunity. Maybe Pak Dimas, do you want to ask something? Maybe you really missed the class of Prof Kamil. Are you still here, Pak Dimas? Do you want to ask? It's special for you, Pak. Take your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, you're in UAE
The
already.
background is still UIA.
Thank you, Pak Faza, for
Yeah.
giving me such very great opportunity. Prof.
Yeah.
Kamil, just I want to ask simple things that need your advice.
Yeah.
Right now, the world has already discussed about circular flow of economy.
Uh-huh.
Circular flow of economy.
Uh-huh.
So circular flow of economy is
Yeah.
being discussed
Yeah.
intensively in the corner of the world.
Yeah.
Because they realize maybe that the economy must be circulated and not only just stop in one hand.
Yeah, correct.
So do you think that this concept, the newly concept, can mitigate or reduce the potential disruptions in the financial system due to the fiat money?
Yes.
Yeah.
The system that I was telling you, mean that one?
Yes, right. So by talking about the circular flow economy.
Oh yes, correct. You see, the circular flow is what you're saying. Sometimes the term we use is liquidity. Constantly creating liquidity, the movement of money in the system is necessary. So in the Islamic system, if you notice, we are always encouraged to spend money, not to hoard money. Yeah, you notice or not? So when we spend money, then you are creating the constant circular of money in the economy, rather than stopping it. If I save it, then the circular flow of money is actually stopped in the process. But when we do netting system, the netting system actually creates that kind of flow without the actual movement of money. But goods are actually exchanged, change, and then we net off. We exchange goods, then net off. So netting system actually increases the liquidity in the system. So you're right. We must always keep the liquidity system in place. So that's why, if you notice, when I started the talk, I mentioned three things are necessary. Actually, four, but the three important things are for us to create a powerful Islamic economic system. What is that? Remember, the monetary system is definitely one because it addresses the riba in the system. Okay, all the system is addressing liquidity and riba in the system. Okay, then number two is we must create an integrated education where we have people with good character, good practicing Islam, and at the same time they are professionals. They are engineers, they are doctors and so forth. Dia Syariah background tapi dia adalah seorang doktor. Syariah background Islam, dia seorang engineer like that. We must create integrated education like that. Why this is necessary? Because education is necessary before you can produce goods and services. You see, if you have no education, how am I going to produce anything? If I have a goal under my feet, but if I don't know how to take the goal, it's as useless, isn't it? So you must create that kind of education system, like Gontor system or something like that. But it must integrate. The third one is wakaf-based economy. This is what I'm now focusing. Why wakaf? The wakaf-based economy will mobilize contributions from actual businesses and form a pool, a wakaf bank kind of thing. And the pool will now start to finance people, empower people. So therefore, there'll be social security for everybody. Miskin, kaya, semuanya ada social security dia. And the wakaf system will empower every individual and businesses. You see? So these are the three major the foundations necessary to establish an Islamic economic system. Then we notice the fourth one. I said the fourth one is actually political will. You must have a political strength to protect these three. Mungkin it might come from a movement. Mungkin maybe there is a political party willing to give the political will for these three. You see, so the political will needs to be obtained ultimately. So this is Dimas. It is very Dr. Dimas is very much in line with what I was saying. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dimas from UIA, I guess, right? The background is UIA. Actually, I should change it as well. Is UIA. Okay, thank
I was
you.
wondering in Pakistan, is it?
All right, you're right. Okay, thank you, Prof, for this opportunity. Actually, it is already 9 past 6, right? So could you please to give advice, especially for the students, right, to keep their spirit to study, especially for the Islamic economics? As closing statement, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Faza. I would like to tell the student, advise the students, be confident, because remember, everything is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So within your ability, you must contribute in your area. So as I mentioned to you, you are already in the finance area. What we are talking is basically money, but you can also concentrate additionally in the area of wakaf. Try to integrate this to knowledge. Inshallah, then you'll be able to contribute tremendously in the development of Islamic finance and also the Islamic economics ultimately in the future. Because you need to embed these two now. Because the development of the wakaf economy is a bit easier than the monetary sector. Because the monetary sector is politically sometimes difficult. But wakaf economy, anybody can develop. Because there's some based on sadaqah, you give and then you roll it. So wakaf economy can also provide huge liquidity, like what Dr. Dimas was saying, for the secular economy. All right. From the monetary side, it's actually the netting process, but the wakaf economy. So please look into all any, and if you can also look at the same time into the education, look at it. But if you cannot, then leave it to the educationists. Okay. So please learn hard, and also do a lot of research in those areas. Do your research, even your project papers, your thesis. Please do in this research. Because if you notice, when the Ottoman Caliphate collapsed, the first institution the colonialists destroyed was the Wakaf system, because it was very powerful. So I always told people, we develop back, the rise of the Islamic economy will come when the Wakaf system begins to rise again. So please give some importance to developing the Wakaf system. Okay. So thank you very much. Wish you all the best, and make a dua for the success of all of you to contribute to Indonesia, to the Ummah, to the development of Islamic economics and finance, inshallah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Kameel, for this opportunity. It is such an honor for us get the knowledge from the first source of the book, right? The writer, and hopefully today we will benefit from what Professor Kameel taught, and actually hopefully it will increase our spirit to learn more and more, especially about Islamic economics, especially about wakaf. Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much for this night. We end with hamdalah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Thank you, Prof. Kameel, Prof. Dimas.
Welcome. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.